You're listening to Soap Dirt, the latest in television entertainment news.
Hey there, soap opera fans. This is SoapDirt.com, and today we're going to be taking a deep dive into everything you need to know about Adam Newman from Young and the Restless. Let's dig in because there's a lot to unpack. The very first thing to know about the hunky Young and the Restless bad boy is that he's his dad's namesake. His full name is Victor Adam Newman, although everybody just calls him Adam. But he grew up without the Newman last name or any of the advantages that his wealthy siblings have. In fact, he was raised under the name Victor Adam Wilson. He was raised on a farm by his mom, Hope Wilson, and his stepfather, Cliff Wilson, who had adopted him when he was very young. Way back on Young and the Restless, Adam was born on April 24th, 1995 in Kansas, and he grew up there. His mother, Hope, was blind, and she was attacked by a rapist one night, but Victor Newman stopped the guy, and that's how they met. Victor was hiding out during one of the many times he was faking his death and skating out of Genoa City. And he stayed on at the farm and worked as a farmhand after he saved Hope, and they fell for each other. She gave him her virginity, and he put a baby in her belly that she named after him. They got engaged, and they went back to Genoa City, but then she found out that her unborn son might inherit her blindness, which was a congenital disorder. So Victor Newman pushed her to abort little Adam before he was even born. That made Hope really mad. She refused. She left him and went back to Kansas and took up with her ex-boyfriend, Cliff. She divorced Victor and let her new husband, Cliff, adopt Adam. She told Victor she did not want him to be in his life, and she raised him far away from Genoa City and all of the Newmans, and she never told Adam about his biological father. He grew up thinking this guy, Cliff Wilson, was his dad. But over the years, and more so after Cliff finally died, Victor kept coming back to Kansas to spend time with Hope and to get to know his namesake son. Then Hope Wilson's death led to the rise of Adam Newman as we know him now. When Hope was dying of pancreatic cancer, she finally revealed to her son, who was known as Vic at the time, V-I-C, Vic, as Adam. She told him that his father was not Cliff and his name was Victor Newman. By this point, Victor Adam Wilson was an adult. He had worked to pay his way through Harvard Business School. He did it by working hard and taking out a pile of student loans, and he knew about business legend Victor Newman, but he was really stunned to find out that's his father. Then his mom died, and Adam moved to Genoa City, and he swapped his name away from Victor or Vic over to Adam so that people wouldn't get him confused, because Victor had hired him and there would have been two Victors at the office. So from then on, he was only known as Adam Newman. And that's when the intense rivalry between Adam and Victoria kicked off, and it's carried on since then. They've both been CEO at Newman Enterprises after shoving out the other one, and Nick was often caught in their crossfire. And when a bitter family fight had Victor rejecting Adam, he found a new father figure in Jack Abbott, his dad's longtime rival. Jack and Adam have remained close since then. So along the way, Adam first had Cliff as his dad, and then Victor, and then Jack's kind of a surrogate dad to him. They definitely have that vibe. Now we're going to dig into a roster of Adam's crimes, starting with committing a murder at age 11. Do you remember that? When he was 11, Adam Newman killed A.J. Montalvo, who was the father of a friend. He did it to save his mother, and he suppressed that memory until a couple of years ago. So even though that was Adam's first crime, we didn't find out about it until around 2021 because of flashbacks. So that was very interesting. Then to his grown-up crimes, Adam served a stint in prison for conspiring with Jack to set Victor up on a murder charge, and Victor returned the favor years later, setting his son up for a murder rap. So that was a two-way crime. While Adam was in prison, it looked like his mother's eye condition he inherited hit him, and he was going blind and being beaten in jail. But as it turned out, Another crime, fraud. Adam was faking blindness by injecting Botox into his eyeballs, hoping that it would get his dad, Victor, to get him out of prison, and it worked like a charm. Victor bribed someone to get him out, and then the next crime started because his then love, Ashley Abbott, was the target of Adam's next game. Adam gaslit Ashley to torment her and his father both, and his antics got so extreme that he caused her to miscarry their child. But then he gaslit her into a hysterical pregnancy. It was just all so toxic. And then he kidnapped newborn Faith Newman and gave her to Ashley to keep the scheme going. So Ashley thought she had labor and delivery and had this baby, and Sharon thought that her baby died because Adam had a doctor on his payroll to lie to her. Another thing that Adam did was he blackmailed the doctor that helped with the baby scheme, and when they argued, he accidentally pushed him into traffic and the doctor was run over and died. So yet another dead body in his past. Then Adam faked his death in 2010 and left evidence implicating Jack, Nick, and Victor, and then also Victoria, because it was Victoria who the cops arrested first, thinking she stabbed her brother with a pen. She was released, and Nick was arrested when they found evidence against him. The big deal was that the DNA of the body he used to fake his death matched his, but the reason that happened was that Adam was thinking 5 steps ahead, playing chess like Victor, and he gave a bone marrow donation to this guy who was a cancer patient. So when they tested his DNA, it was a match for Adam, and that's actually a scientific thing. It can change when you get a bone marrow donation. It can temporarily change your DNA. It can mess with your blood type. It's just very weird. So Adam was then charged with murder of the man whose body he used to fake his death. He was also charged with kidnapping baby Faith and causing Ashley's miscarriage, but a top-notch lawyer got him off on all those charges for lack of evidence. Another crime Adam did was he perjured himself over some corporate business, and he faced an arrest for that. He was also accused of killing a Harvard schoolmate who turned into his toxic love interest, Sky Lockhart. She was found in this gruesome way, disemboweled. She had faked her death and he knew it, but he initially was accused of killing her, and the charges were later dropped. Later, Adam plotted with Diane Jenkins. They were going to frame Victor for her murder, and he helped her fake it, but then it turned out Nikki had actually killed her by hitting her in the head with a rock, and then Deacon covered it up, and Adam was arrested for obstruction of justice in that case. Interestingly, in very recent years on Young and the Restless, they completely rewrote that history to say that Diane survived and Deacon helped her fake her death, when that wasn't what happened at all. Another crime, which he did not do, Adam was falsely accused of raping Melanie Daniels. Those charges were finally dropped. After faking his death and coming back to town, this was another fake death, he stole the identity of Gabriel Bingham and masqueraded as that man thanks to plastic surgery after he had been horribly burned. Adam also faced charges in Delia Abbott's hit and run death, but he was able to get the sentence reduced to community service and probation. Also, Victor set up Adam to look like he killed Constance Bingham, who was Gabriel's mother, the man whose life he assumed for a while, who was himself already dead. Adam was sentenced, but he escaped prison, and then he wound up blown up by Chloe Mitchell in a cabin. That was when another recast happened, but that was all part of another crime that he actually didn't commit. He committed so many, but most of those that he actually did, he wasn't convicted of. Some of his more recent crimes in the 2019s and 2020s include paying Phyllis Summers to hack into Nick's Dark Horse Company servers. He also paid a thug to kidnap Chelsea Lawson for him, and he drugged Victor by swapping his medications back in 2019. It also came out that he killed a guy in Las Vegas to save Chance Chancellor. So yes, that was murder, but it was done in defense of someone else. He also paid a pharmacist to tamper with Victor's meds back in 2021. Since then, Adam Newman's been mostly crime-free on Young and the Restless, though. He's still scheming, but it hasn't really crossed the border into criminal lately. Another big thing to know about Adam is his congenital eye disease. So Adam's mother, Hope Wilson, had an eye disease called retinitis pigmentosa that made her blind. Then, ironically, when Adam was faking blindness in prison by injecting his eyes, he actually triggered the illness in himself and was truly going blind. But at the time, Adam covered and said his eyes were punctured in prison as an attack from another prisoner because he wanted to hide his self-sabotage from Victor. After that, his vision recovered, but Adam needed a retinal transplant to fully restore his vision, and he got that in 2011. But then the next year, he was again blinded when crazy Patty Williams threw chemicals into his eyes, but he finally recovered his sight again. But that genetic eye issue came into play later with Adam's biological children. His son Connor Newman needed a corneal transplant when he was little, or he would have faced a life of blindness. When Adam got that bad news, he was driving distracted, and that was the night he ran into little Delia. Her death gave Connor sight-saving corneas, but it was a horrible twist of fate that still haunts all parties involved to today. His second son, Christian Newman, seems to not have inherited the eye issues. We haven't seen them yet, and of course, Nick's got custody of Christian and is raising him as his own. Currently, Adam's ex, Sally Spectra, is pregnant with his child, supposedly, according to the DNA test, but you know how DNA tests on soap operas go, so they'll need to follow up to see if his kid inherits the health issue, if it's his baby at all. Here's a little tidbit about Adam Newman that they don't ever talk about, and that was a very short-lived plot, but very interesting and very crucial. Adam's gay seduction of Rafe Torres on Young and the Restless was a storyline that came up and then died off and is never, ever, ever talked about, even though it was pivotal. This was back around the time when we were switching from Chris Ingen to Michael Muhney in the role, and Adam was full-scale devious. He was nuclear-level devious at that point. So Rafe Torres was a gay lawyer whose aunt was fired as part of Adam's gaslighting schemes against his dad and Ashley. And Rafe was close to figuring it out. To get away with his crimes, Adam seduced Rafe. Then Nick Newman found out about their tryst, and he told Victor that Adam was gay. Victor actually handled it really well, but the ruse didn't last that long because his then-girlfriend, D.A. Heather Stevens, dumped Adam for cheating with Rafe. It was just all so messy, and that gay storyline, or pretending to be gay storyline, was abruptly dropped, and it is never mentioned on Young and the Restless anymore. Now let's take a look at the many women in Adam's life that he loved, some he hated, some he just slept with. Let's dig in. His fellow Harvard student and total psycho Sky Lockhart was one of Adam's earliest flings that we found about retroactively because we never saw him in college because they did a soap opera rapid aging Saurus recast, but we learned about his time at Harvard. Sky was one of his Harvard friends, and she was an early fling of his that he later married, but he ended up despising her in the end. She was extremely toxic and fell to a much-deserved fiery death in a volcano in Hawaii. He also romanced assistant DA Heather Stevens, but she called it quits with him when he cheated with Rafe while they were together. Later, Adam romanced Sharon Newman, despite her being his brother Nick's high school sweetie and his baby mama. They got married twice, and when he came back from the dead with Mark Grossman in the role, they remained close, but not in a relationship, despite a one-night stand and some passionate kisses. Con woman Chelsea Lawson was Adam Newman's next big love. They met while they were both down on their luck, and they were vibing immediately because they were both black sheep in Genoa City. But they're toxic together, and yet they couldn't stay apart for years. Most recently, he won her away from Nick when he came back from the dead with Mark Grossman in the role, but then things fell apart. They even devolved to the point a couple of years ago that she framed him for poisoning Ray Rosales. Now they're in a good place and remain friends, but a romance at this point with them again does not seem likely. Also, Adam had a deep friendship with Sage Warner when he was doing his Gabriel Bingham thing. They weren't in love with each other, but they did have a one-night stand, and that resulted in the birth of Christian Newman. He and Chelsea were on and off for years, and his most recent fling was with Sally Spectra. He fell really hard for the gorgeous redhead, but he sabotaged their love. Now she's with Nick, but he still loves her, and he has proposed repeatedly. Now let's look at Adam's marriages. Adam's been married 5 times plus 1 fake marriage. He married Sharon Newman in 2009 and 2010, and they were engaged one more time. He married Sky in 2010, but her death in the volcano left him a widower. Chelsea and Adam have married twice in 2012 and 2014 and had another engagement that was broken. Also, he and Sage pretended to be married when he was skulking around pretending to be Gabriel Bingham back in 2015. Now, here's something crucial. Let's look at the actors who have played the role of Adam Newman over the years. So 11 actors played Adam Newman on Young and the Restless. Twins Celeste and Corin Williams and also Sabrina and Danielle Harper first played infant Adam back when he was Victor Adam Newman and Victor Adam Wilson when he was just a baby. Then Young and the Restless cast Spencer Kloss and Hayden Tank to play him as a tot. And then there was a Saurus recast, soap opera Rapid Aging Syndrome, with Chris Ingen in 2008 that took Adam from age 13 up to age 27. Before that, he had been supposedly being raised on the farm, and then all of a sudden he's an adult and back in Victor's life. Michael Muhney played Adam for 5 years from 2009 to 2014. However, he had a controversial exit from Y&R, but he's still got a legion of fans who adore him. Then Justin Hartley stepped into the role from 2014 to 2016 before moving to primetime TV fame on This Is Us. Finally, we got Mark Grossman as Adam Newman when he returned from the dead in 2019. But he was only the 10th actor to play him. In fact, the 11th actor to play Adam was young Dane West. He played the 11-year-old version of Victor's youngest son. That was in flashbacks revealing that he'd killed the man back in Kansas to protect his mom. So, we have to ask, now that we're at the end of everything you need to know about Adam, who's your favorite version of Adam Newman? The murdery, scheming version from his early adult days? Do you like the Adam now who's not quite a criminal but is still scheming? Did you like Muhney or Ingen or Hartley, or is Grossman your favorite Adam? And what's your favorite storyline? Be sure to share everything in the comments on the podcast and share your thoughts with us. Come back to Soap Dirt all the time for tons more Young and the Restless reports on the actors, the show, spoilers, news, and updates. Be sure to check out our YouTube channel for everything you need on your latest soap opera spoilers. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for being a loyal listener. Follow us wherever you get your podcast, because you don't want to miss the next episode. Soap Dirt is on all the major podcast platforms, including Apple Podcast, Spotify, iHeartRadio, and more.